Hi, it's Dr. Debbie Pates, and today I am going to lead you through an easy yoga practice designed to help open up and stretch our bodies. And by easy, I don't mean it may not be challenging, because sometimes it can be challenging to accept our own limits, right? And not go to a pose the way we think that it's supposed to look, but go to where our body is going to get the benefits. But we'll get back to that later. So for this practice, I have a cat, but what I really wanted to tell you is I want you guys to have a towel, and this is a full-size towel rolled up, and we're going to use it 2 different times. So if you don't have a towel handy, which you probably don't, I pause this and go get a towel, and then come on back when you have the towel, and we will meet up again. I'm actually going to refold my towel. I'll show you guys that later. So now, once you've got your towel and you're situated, let's start in child's pose. So separate your knees if you want to get more into your hips, or if you want to get into your low back, which a lot of people have been really talking about achy low back since we've been spending so much more time at home sitting than normal. If you want to get into your low back, maybe bring your knees together, forehead to the ground. And if your knees are together, you might have your hands alongside your body, palms facing up. If your knees are together, you could also reach your arms out wide or long in front of you. And if you're on your wide knees, you're also going to want to have your arms out long in front of you. And just drop in and take a few breaths, starting to really create a space between everything else that you've been doing and move into a space of yoga. Inhaling deeply, exhaling deeply, letting the breath fill up your lungs, maybe even expanding the rib cage in your back, and then exhale. Just taking a few nice deep breaths. And then push up onto your hands and knees. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. And do a few cat-cows. So on an inhale, dropping your stomach, tilting your tailbone upward, lifting your gaze, maybe even squeezing your shoulder blades together. And then on an exhale, reversing all of that, pushing up away from your hands, through your shoulder blades, tucking your tail, tucking your chin, and inhaling. And make these organic for your body, going back and forth with your own breath, perhaps adding any other movements. So I really, especially in this part of this practice, invite you to step out of the idea that this needs to look any specific way, and just invite whatever movements your body wants, whatever feel good. Let your body do those movements, maybe dipping your shoulders around. Keep your breath flowing, maybe moving your neck side to side a little bit. Be gentle, but let it feel good. And then come on back to regular, static hands and knees, and tuck your toes. You might walk your hands a little bit forward, lift your hips, come on to downward facing dog. And I said this is going to be an easy practice, and it will, in that you're not going to break a sweat. Let your heels sink down. Feel how downward facing dog is both a strong pose and a stretch. Right? Your heels sink down. You get a stretch through your Achilles. Backs of your knees might push away all the way up your triceps, your hamstrings, back of your legs, through your low back. Really push your hands away from the floor and reach your tailbone up, getting a nice stretch here. Feel how this can feel so delicious for your shoulders. Breathe, keep breathing. And then drop your knees to the floor. Keep your toes tucked and sit up onto your heels. This is a pretty strong pose in your feet. Doesn't look like much, but a lot of you may already be experiencing the intensity of this posture. If you're like, oh my God, this is unbearable, then maybe you lean forward a little bit and take some of the weight out of it. Put the weight into your hands. If you can tolerate it up here with your torso erect, for me, I like to stay about here and bring my hands at heart center and just take a few breaths. If you need more, which I don't, so I'm not really going to demonstrate it, but you can bring your hands, I could go a little bit, you can bring your hands to the floor behind you and go back as far as is appropriate for your body. I'll tell you what, when I first started doing that posture, that what I just did would not have been accessible to me. Breathe. I asked a podiatrist about this posture one time because I thought my yoga teacher was trying to kill me. And what my podiatrist told me is that what's happening right now is all of those tendons and ligaments across your feet and the muscles that we don't use a whole lot are just stretching. And that intensity that you're feeling is the stretch happening. You're not in danger, but check in with your jaw, check in with where you might be holding that you don't need to be right now. Come on forward, untuck your toes, gently, gently, gently. Woo-wee, that's a big one. And then just sit back. Roll your shoulders up and back and down, maybe a couple of those rolls backwards and forward. You can flex your spine again if it feels good. Again, I really invite you to allow this practice to be a little bit more intuitive, perhaps, than other practices. And then, while we're here, let's do a quad stretch. So, separate your feet wider than your hips. And we're going to be gentle here, right? We haven't done a whole big flow to warm ourselves up. So, sit down in between your heels and try to get your butt on the floor. If you have your towel, and this is too intense, you may want to roll up your towel and kind of sit on it here. You're still going to get the stretch, but it's going to take some of the intensity out of it. If you're not feeling anything at all, if you're still feeling too much, sit forward. But if you're not feeling anything at all, if your butt is on the ground, begin to walk your hands back. Maybe you come down onto your elbows. Maybe you lay all the way down. For me, today I'm just going to stay about here. And breathe into your thighs. Breathe into your hip flexors at the tops of your thighs. Breathe into wherever you feel tightness. And if that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, just breathe. Maybe think about opening up your shoulders here rather than hunching. You can even, if your hands are behind you on the ground, you might even squeeze your elbows toward each other. If you're laying all the way flat on the ground, bring your hands overhead and clasp opposite elbow. But if you're sitting up, it kind of feels nice to clasp opposite elbow. Get a little bit of a stretch through backs of your shoulders there. You can also, if you're sitting upright, use your fists to kind of massage the bottoms of your feet. It feels sort of nice. And then wherever you are, come on up. So if you're all the way on your back, come one elbow, other elbow, crawl forward. Come into a hands and knees position. Shake out one leg. Shake out the other leg. And then come on to seated. And come into a straddle. If it's hard for you to sit upright in a straddle position, if you start to curve a little bit, think about maybe taking your pelvis and rotating it forward. And if that doesn't mean anything to you or make any difference for you, then take your towel and you can sit on the towel. And that's going to just help. You sit sort of on the edge of it, right? And that'll help you be able to get that pelvic tilt and sit up straighter and begin to walk forward. Imagine leading with your heart, right? So what I don't want you to do is just round the spine and bring your chin to your chest, get length. I don't usually sit on a towel, and I am right now. It feels really nice. So if you don't normally sit on a towel, but you want to give it a try, maybe do that. Feeling a stretch through your inner thighs. The towel's helping me add my hamstrings, the backs of my legs, into this stretch, which is surprising, but whatever. And breathe. So we're not going to our maximum necessarily that we would normally go to if we're warm. If you want to reach out and grab your toes, you could do that. Maybe you have the flexibility that you're laying your chest all the way flat on the floor. Find where you want to be. We're going to take the time, a deeper amount of time, a longer amount of time to help us go deeper into these postures. So be patient with yourself. And that's what I said before, that this practice is going to be on some levels easy, but that doesn't mean it won't be challenging. Right? So sometimes here the challenge is to be patient, to not imagine that, often we do this posture at the end of a more vigorous practice and you're automatically ready to go deeper. So perhaps there's the challenge, is to say, I'm sitting more upright and taking the time to gently get into, maybe not even as deep as I would be able to at the end of a more vigorous practice, but I'm going to be kind and patient with my body, acknowledging where my body is, not where I want it to be. And as we stay in this posture, your body does open up, so you may naturally be able to go deeper the longer we stay in it. Really be conscious of how your exhales can help you soften and deepen into the postures. Sometimes I like to kind of wiggle a little bit, getting into them. And then crawl over to your right leg. As far toward your right leg as you want. So you might rest on the inside of your right leg. For me, that gives a better stretch on the inside of my right thigh. You might have one hand on either side of your right leg, your right shin over there. Again, be leading. Imagine you're leading with your heart, trying to get the crown of your head or your heart beyond your toes. Again, just looking for the length. Your back is not going to be completely flat, most of us, but it's about getting the length. If you have the flexibility to be able to put your elbows down on the earth, let your left elbow, your inside elbow, come down first. Okay, that's going to help square your shoulders rather than roll you open, which we are going to roll open in a minute, but that's not what we're doing right now. And now, bring your right elbow to the inside of your right leg, thigh, wherever it goes, and use a little bit of leverage, a little bit of energy pushing into the leg to roll your right rib cage up. Your left rib cage opens, and then lift your left arm up and over. Some of you guys are going to be able to grab your right foot with your left hand. Keep rolling your chest open. Breathe. Let your left butt cheek be heavy, whether it's on the floor or on your towel. So this is another part where it can be challenging, is that maybe some of you, to keep your left butt cheek on the ground, you're getting about that much movement, right? But what is happening is that the appropriate parts, the parts of the body that this posture is intended to stretch, are stretching in your body. It's just that some people need to go further to get that stretch in their body because their body is different than yours. Come on back up to center. Bring your left hand behind your body, behind your back, and just a gentle stretch. Actually, let's do something I learned from a teacher of mine, Jessica Patterson. So let's stretch with our muscles, not our just cranking ourselves into the twist. So extend your right hand in front of you, left hand is still at the base of your spine, and begin on an inhale, and then exhale. Use your muscles and your musculature and your skeleton to exhale your way into a twist. Inhale, and then exhale, twist. Maybe one more time, and then allow your right hand to come onto your left thigh. This is a gentle twist. Again, we're not looking to go as far as we've ever gone, or maybe as far as you usually do. Honor where your body is right now. Come on back center. Inhale your arms up. Interlace your hands. Turn your palms up toward the sky and just stretch up. And then bring your hands in front of you and really arch. This time, yes, chin to spine. Push away with your hands round through your shoulder blades. Inhale back up. Separate your hands and allow them to float down. Walk your torso center again. You might get a little bit lower this time, right? Because you are warmer than you were when we were here last time. So enjoy that. A couple of breaths. You can shimmy if you want. Maybe this time you want to reach out and grab your toes. And then walk over to your left leg. And again, decide if you want to pause just on the inside of your leg or bring one hand on either side of the leg. Try to square your chest towards your leg here. Breathe. Imagining your chin is going to go beyond your big toes. Or maybe the crown of your head, because I don't really want you guys to crank through your neck. Make your neck long as well, right? Line your neck up with the rest of your spine. And feel the flow of energy. Feel your right butt cheek down on the ground. And also here, if you can get, if your elbows are on the ground, and if you notice on this side, my elbows are closer towards the ground, but we want to square our shoulders, so make sure that your right elbow grounds before your left. So it's a squaring, not a rolling open. Let the exhales deepen the posture. Notice where you're feeling this in your body. And then bring your torso upright a little bit. Bring your left elbow to the inside of your left leg. Reach up with your right arm and over to your degree. And again, right, have some humility. Right butt cheek, you guys, stay down. And that might mean that you come up more. Right? You're not as far leaning over in this posture, but what you are then getting is the integrity of the stretch through your upper body. And that's really what we're looking for, right? Not for this to look like anything, but for your body to get the benefits. And again, that's what I'm talking about, is sometimes that can be challenging, to be where you are, not where you want to be. Come on up. Bring your right hand behind you. Extend your left arm in front of you. Inhale. Follow your gaze to the right on your exhale. Try not to use that back hand. Inhale. Exhale, twisting. And then when you're done with that, allow your left hand to come onto your right thigh or wherever it reaches. Left hand is by the base of your spine. And then come on back center one more time. Inhale your arms up. Clasp your hands, turn your palms up toward the ceiling. And then exhale, round, bring that in front of you, chin to chest. Push through your hands, maybe even tucking your tailbone around and almost like a cat spine here. Come on up and let your hands float to your sides. Okay, we're going to come down onto our backs. And actually, before we go to our backs, I don't know how happy the cat's going to be with me on this one. I'll try to do it this side. Let's, I forgot to say, we're going to use a strap also. If you don't have a strap, you can use it. You could actually use your towel. But so for this time, what I want you guys to do is take your towel and fold it in half. And then roll it up. You could also use a blanket. Well, of course you have a towel. Everybody's got a towel. I was about to say, should you not have a towel? But that's silly. Everybody's got a towel. Okay. You can also use a blanket for this one. And what we're going to do is lay, probably going to have to do this one leg at a time for most of us because this towel's not going to be big enough to hit both thighs at the same time. What I want you to do is, it's pretty simple to get into. I'm trying to avoid my cat here. You're going to lay down and have the towel hit the top of your thigh. And then begin to rock. Rock back and forth a little bit. Super gently. Super gently. I don't know if you guys can see me. My screen went black here. It doesn't matter. And you can keep breathing. Please, please, please keep breathing. You can come forward so that the towel's hitting different parts of your thigh. Right? So closer or further away. Closer to your knee. Further away from your hip. So this is pretty intense, but also pretty delicious. Give your body time, be patient. And breathe. Notice if you're clenching your jaw or anything like that. And then switch sides. So move the towel over maybe. And again, start wherever you want. Perhaps you start at the top of your thigh. And rock a little bit left to right. You can also do this on a foam roller, but I promise you it is a lot more intense because a foam roller is less giving than a towel. And for some people, you might have a real different experience one leg to the other. We use our body differently. So just notice that, right? It's a huge part of mindfulness is to notice what comes up. Notice, oh, this leg feels different than the other leg without going into a whole lot of story about it or a lot of judgment. Keep breathing, keep moving down or up your leg. Ooh, this is a good one. Oh, man. All right. Come on up. And before we move on, let's position our towels for the way we're going to use them next time. So open up your towel again and fold it into thirds. Fold it into thirds. I gotta put mine down here. Doesn't have to be particularly neat. Fold it into thirds and then roll it up. okay? If you have rubber bands, you can put them around it, but you don't need to. These are the kind of rubber bands that you get with produce in the supermarket, like fresh broccoli or asparagus. Okay, and then we're going to go on to our backs. Take your strap rather, and oh man, I shouldn't have just had you roll the towel. I should have said if you don't have a strap, use your towel. Anyway, I did. Okay, so just roll on down to your back. We're not quite done, but enjoy a moment here laying on your back. Palms up, just letting your legs be long. Turn your head left to right a little bit. Have your strap handy. We're going to do one more heart opener before we move on. And we're going to come back to something similar to this with our rolled up towel. Place your feet flat up close by your glutes, bridge pose. Push into your feet and lift your hips. And if you want, shimmy your shoulders together underneath you and clasp your hands. Really push into your feet, heels, toes. Lift up, opening up your heart, opening up even your hip flexors a little bit maybe. And then release your hands, come on down, and hug your knees into your chest. And this is the motion we're going to do for a little while. Hug your knees into your chest and hug them tight and rock left to right a little bit. And then notice how that feels on your low back on the floor. Let your knees come away from your chest. Keep rocking. Maybe you hang on to your knees with your straight elbows, extended arms. And just notice where it feels good, letting the back massage against the floor a little bit. And then rock to the left side. Just let your knees fall to the left. And turn your gaze to the right. Extend your right arm. Notice how your deep breaths can loosen up the back body here. Come on back center. Make some circles with your ankles. Almost said elbows. Just because it feels good. And then drop your knees to the right. Turn your head to the left. Just a gentle stretch here. Breathing into your whole back. Exhaling, deepening the twist. Just let it feel good. Again, what I said at the beginning, right? Step away from any notions of how you think this should look and just let yourself feel how it feels. Rock back to center and grab your strap. Put your left foot on the floor and put your strap on the ball of your right foot and extend your right foot up to the ceiling. Grab onto the strap with your left hand. If your back is comfortable here, you can extend your left leg along the floor. All right, so notice right now, this is going to be an IT band stretch. Notice right now that you have both hip bones and my butt is coming up the floor, but you really want everything that's on the floor right now to stay on the floor. Take a deep breath and begin to move your leg toward the left. Don't move anything off the floor. In fact, make your right hip even heavier. That's your IT band. And you might not get a whole lot of movement. If you notice, I don't know how much you guys can see. My leg is not really very far over here. Some people, this is so intense, you might even have your leg down further like this, but what you're still wanting to do is come across midline as much as you can. Let your right hip be heavy. Breathe. Shoulders are relaxed. If you can't have steady even breath back out of it. If your breath is starting to catch or you're going to that, then back out. That's not what we're looking for. What we want is for you to be able to sustain the stretch in order for the muscles, the tendons, whatever all is back there to begin softening, begin opening, right? And if you're clenching your breath like that, then you're actually sending more of a, your body's not going to relax, right? You're sending a, hey, tense up signal to your body. So be in a place where you can continue to breathe freely. And as we stay, you may be able to go further in the stretch, maybe not, but you may be able to tolerate it more. And now, what I want you to do is turn this into another spinal twist, similar to what we just did. This time, let your butt come off the floor, let your leg go all the way over. Oh, it feels good. Turn your head to the right, extend your right arm. And notice how in this much bigger version of the posture, it just feels a little different. If you don't like this version, go back to the other one. It doesn't matter. This isn't some kind of contest. And then come on back up. You might want to bend your leg to get there. Extend your leg back up again. This time hold the strap in your right hand. Once again, notice how everything is on the ground, and especially here in your left hip. All right? And open up your leg to the right. Keep your left hip on the mat. Breathe. So there's a couple different things going on here, right? Your right leg is coming out to the right, but your left hip, your left butt is staying on the ground. You're breathing evenly, and that breath is your barometer of how far to go in this posture. Some of you may not need the strap here. Some of you may have the flexibility to grab your big toe. But again, it's not about how far you go. It's about getting the stretch in the parts of your body that this posture is intended to stretch. Come on back up with your right leg. Release the strap. Re-bend your left knee and put your right ankle on top of your left knee. Push your knee away from you. So this is a magic pigeon pose. This is on your back version of pigeon. If you're feeling enough right here, then you got it. You're good. If you want more, lift up your left thigh. Maybe this is good. Maybe you want to reach through and grab onto the back of your left thigh or your left shin. Some people like to extend their leg up. But it's not about your left leg, really. It's about what's going on in this area of your body, your right glute, quad, hip, maybe even low back a little bit. Try to have your head and shoulders on the mat as much as possible. And if you're having a hard time, some people have a hard time grabbing onto their leg with that, and their upper body is still up, and they have a harder time putting it down. Haha, you got a towel, so put it underneath your body. Breathe. So we're going to take the time to open up here. Maybe pull your leg closer. Maybe you use your elbow to open up your knee if you have that in your repertoire. And release. Put both knees on the ground, both feet on the ground, knees bent. Push up. Bridge pose. Moving your spine in the opposite direction of what you just did. You were rounding it in one direction, and now you're working on rounding it in the other. I don't have a real flexible spine in that direction, but some people would look a lot less flat than I do. And then take your strap again, or your towel if you're using that. Place it over your left foot. Extend your left leg up. I should have done this on the other side. Just pause here. Oops, I'm kicking the cat. If you want to extend your right leg, down. If that's good for you, do so. If you want to pause here and just feel that nice stretch through your left hamstring, and then everything's flat on the ground, right, you guys? You're going to be hold the strap with your right hand this time, and be really honest with yourself about keeping your left hip here really heavy. IT band stretch. Begin to move your leg across midline toward the right side. Breathe. It's very intense. It's very intense for a lot of people. So you want to breathe. Breathe into the intensity. This is one of these amazing things actually that we can practice on the yoga mat, right? Is we put our body into a position, a shape that creates some tension, that creates some intensity, and we say, okay, this is a pretty intense moment, but rather than getting all freaked out about it, I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to send my body a message. We got this. We can relax here. You don't have to tense up everything. Left hip heavy. Just because one thing is kind of intense here. Ooh, and then turn it into a stretch. Let your foot come toward the ground or all the way onto the ground. Let your left hip come off the ground. Turn your head to the left, to your arm out to the left. Nice deep breaths. Letting the back open up. Letting the weight of your bones and the time that we're spending in the postures be what opens you up. And of course, your deep breath. Come on back up. And switch sides. Right side this time is the real heavy side as you switch the strap into your left hand and allow your leg to open up toward the left. Keep your right side, butt, hip, keep them down. Make them heavy. Maybe even thinking about expanding in the groin area, right? Thinking about your right hip staying down as your left hip opens up a little. Breathing. Come on up. Release the strap. Bend your right knee. Place your left foot on top of your right knee. And we're going to move into the supine version of pigeon. So if you're feeling it, good, you're there. You don't need to go any further. If you need more, pull your knee in and grab maybe your right thigh. You can grab onto your right shin. If you need to put the towel underneath your head, go ahead and do that. And you're trying to have as much of your back on the floor as possible. Breathe. I wish you guys could see my dog right now. He's laying on the couch in a very silly position. If you extended your leg on the other side, do that here. But again, it's not about your right leg. Release. Bring your legs up. Place your hands by your hips. You can stay right here. Actually, you know what's really nice? If your towel is rolled up, let's do this. You can go into a shoulder stand. But since we're working on a modest practice here, maybe take your towel and put it underneath your butt a little bit. So you kind of want to have your almost your low back on the floor, but you're supporting your hips. This is a version of legs up the wall pose. And let's just stay here. This is a nice inversion. Stay here for a few breaths. So of course with any of these, I don't want to stay here for too long just for time's sake, but if you love this, pause and come back to it. Or I meant to say pause and stay here as long as you want. Or you can of course come back to it. From here, place your hands on the floor again and using a little momentum, let's come into plow pose. Bringing your feet toward the floor overhead. Maybe your feet touch the floor, and if they do, you might clasp hands and straighten your arms, but for me right now, that's not what's working in my body. So you just support your low back. Move your towel from underneath your back. Place your hands on the floor and using your hands to help moderate your descent. Come on back all the way onto your back. And let's move into something called fish pose. Bring your legs long and bring your hands, palms down, come onto your elbows and kind of tuck you want to move your elbows toward each other, tuck your hands underneath your butt a little bit, and open up your heart. Some people can put their head on the floor here. Open up your heart. And then come on out of that. And we're going to move into a deeper version of that. Oh wow, it's snowing at my house right now. My dog looks very silly. I wish you guys could see him. Take your, so what we're going to do is we're going to place the towel rolled into thirds this time along your spine. And then lay back on it. Start out with having it, let's say, kind of in between your shoulder blades. And allow your head to come onto the floor. And let your arms open up in a T shape. And when I teach this, a lot of times I'll teach this posture with a block because I don't have lots of towels handy. And you can do this with the block. And I always can tell when people get into just the right position because they usually go, ah. So I want you to have that kind of sensation. Find wherever this towel moves, move the towel up and down to give yourself the most delicious opening here. And you might play around with where that is, moving it up and down along your spine. So what we're doing here is a back bend. We're opening our hearts. And when we do a back bend with support, we can stay in the posture a lot deeper, a lot longer than we could without the support, right? So we were just briefly in fish pose. I don't know how long I'd be able to hold fish, but I feel like I could stay in this position all day. Maybe sit up a little bit and move the towel somewhere else. See how that feels. Just moving up and down the spine, opening up in different places. So stay here as long as you like, or roll to the side and move the towel. And come on into Shavasana, laying on your back. And really allow yourself to sit here in Shavasana for a little bit. Lay here. Integrating the opening that you've allowed in your body. Integrating maybe the different way that you approached this practice, right? Perhaps allowing the time we spent in the posture rather than the heat to be what deepens your posture. Maybe not going as far as you do other times, but really feeling deeply and letting the breath be the guide. There's a lot of stuff that we're feeling in this time of national trauma, this time of uncertainty. There's a lot of fear. I was really thinking the other day that this is not a happy time in our country. But that doesn't mean that we can't find some equanimity and that we can't acknowledge that even in this difficult time, we do our best in ourselves, in our homes, and in our world. And doing our best has to start with taking care of ourselves. Thank you guys for joining me today. I hope this practice was beneficial to you. Namaste. Oh, and also if you liked this practice, you can join me every Wednesday on Dr. Debbie Pates. No, not .com. On my Facebook page, Dr. Debbie Pates Facebook page. See you soon.